an anti-Zionist, that's obvious. But most importantly, it symbolized an anti-Jewish organization. Clearly, if you look at the PLO statements, it's not just, you know, we want our state, you can have your state. It's the vilification of the Jewish people and the Jewish religion. So when that flag was up on the stage, I would consider that a provocation, just like if Meir Kahane was a African-American speaker, if someone came up wearing a sheet and a white hat and said, I just want to speak my piece.
It's unfortunate that you interpret politics to be behind that, because politics aside, what they were practicing was their First Amendment rights. They were not being violent.
I understand that, and if a KKK member got up on this stage, I don't think I you would criticize any black person.
I would hope that they would be escorted. I would hope they'd be escorted off this stage instead of him being allowed by the police to push her violently. And now the end result is she's had her civil rights violated. She's afraid to prosecute against him because she fears she'll end up like Californians that have been murdered by the JDL. And I want to know what right you think you have to bring this type of violence from a man who's preached violence.
I haven't heard any violence from him. I haven't heard any racism from him.
First chance possible. What right do you have to bring this to our university?
The only racism I've heard, or bigotry that I've heard from Rabbi Kahane, is simply that it is his opinion that Arabs don't want Israel to exist. And the pro-Arab people in this crowd have made that clearer to me than has ever been made before. So I don't see the racism. I mean, I've heard him speak before where I've heard racism, but as far as today goes, I haven't heard any racism or any advocation of violence.
He's a violent man. He demonstrated that on our stage. What right do you have to bring this to our university campus?
I'd like to bring up the KKK example again. Yes, he did act violently.
It's irrelevant. He's here now, not the KKK.
Okay. That was a very moving statement. Go on. Next.
Sir.
Yes, sir.
As for racism, you are not a racist. That is your point of view, the stand you take.
Mm-hmm.
Yes?
I'm not a racist, right?
Arabs are human beings, Jews are human beings.
Right.
So, how then can you argue from the point of view, from the underlying racist assumptions that Jews have certain rights to the land that Arabs have, that Palestinians have? It's the same land, people were born, same place. How can you say that you're not racist, yet advocate that argument?
For the simple reason that they don't believe that we have the right to the land. It's that simple. Short answer? Pithy. That's it. Did it penetrate?
No, it didn't. That's
Freshmen always have problems. Now.
I'm not a freshman.
Oh, sophomores are even worse.
Not a sophomore either. I'm not a bigot either.
That's really a joke. That is really a joke. I have a very, very great sense of humor.
I have the dubious distinction, I guess, of being the last questioner.
Go on.
From my understanding of the way you think of Israel, Israel is the Jewish state. Its very definition comes from Judaism, this religion that is the justification for its existence. You said a few moments ago that you would make a deal with the devil to preserve that state. Tell me how. Isn't that hypocrisy? Don't you destroy your justification by making a deal with the devil?
My friend, I see that when I come to this campus, it's so square, I can't use metaphors, okay? I take it back. I'll make a deal with a lot of bad people in order to survive. I would venture to say, excuse me.
Go ahead.
In 1948, no country would sell the Jews weapons. And as the time approached for the state to come into being, and the British were turning over tanks to the Arabs, and we didn't have one tank and one bomber, suddenly Joseph Stalin decided to allow Czechoslovakia to sell weapons to Israel, to the Jews. I would take weapons from Joseph Stalin in order to survive. And I hope that you, in your survival, if that's threatened, you would have also. I don't like Stalin. Couldn't stand Stalin. A loser, a slob. But if he's the only guy that throws out that life raft to me, I'll take the raft.
No, I would not, because as a Muslim,
okay.
I believe
I understand that.
that my convictions are more
Right,
important, and
okay,
that if
you're
I
moral.
die doing the right thing... Well, can
Okay.
I finish my
Okay.
statement, sir, please?
Okay.
Thank
Fine,
you.
good enough. I accept that.
If I die doing the right thing, which God has told me is the right thing,
Absolutely. Okay.
then what could be better than that? I would rather die in the way of God than make a deal with the devil. I would never make a deal with Joseph Stalin.
I
would
hope
never
that
make it-
someday, I hope that someday you're never in that position.
I certainly hope so too,
Good
but
enough.
if the opportunity comes, I have no
Good
doubt
enough.
that I will stand by my convictions and not
I
be a
heard
hypocrite.
you. I heard you. There is nothing wrong with saving one's soul and saving one's life by taking weapons from a Joseph Stalin. We didn't give him anything for it except money. And that saved Jewish lives. And how easy it is for you, a pompous little kid who has never had that experience of facing death, babbling away over here about what is ethical and what is moral.
What is ethical and what is moral remains that way, irregardless of my
That's
maturity
exactly
or your
right.
immaturity.
And what is ethical and what is moral in Judaism is a lot different than what you think.
No, it isn't, because Judaism, Christianity, and Islam all come from the same root. There is no God but God, and that is eternal, and those
Sir,
ethics and truths will remain.
Judaism is a set of laws which you don't know, which
These
you've
set
never
of laws,
studied,
however,
and you've never studied. So don't
have
tell
studied.
me. So don't tell me what Judaism is and what it says. It is far more than there is one God. Of course, that's a basic thing.
That is the root
But
of
there
all
are
those beliefs.
laws on how a person lives.
True.
And one of it is, if one comes to slay you, zap him first. You don't like that.
No,
But
certainly, I approve of that.
You approve of that. Fine, okay.
But on the other hand,
I
if,
do
if
too.
Satan comes
and if
to
I don't
me,
have the weapon in which to zap him, except from Joseph Stalin, I'll take it from him too. All right.
so you would become
We agree.
what you detest.
We agree to disagree. Okay.
You'd become Satan. I mean, you detest Satan, you'd become Satan.
Judaism permits that. Okay.
Judaism permits
Yeah,
you to be
Judaism permits
evil,
that.
to be
Okay?
good. It's an interesting hypocrisy. I don't think any Judaism would allow you to become evil, to remain Jewish, because you would no longer be Jewish. You would no longer be holy.
If you want to study Judaism, do so. But don't tell me what it says when you don't know what it says.
I guess we'll have to agree to disagree then.
Well, all right, good enough. Okay. Yes.
Good afternoon, Rabbi. Good afternoon, Rabbi.
Good afternoon.
I'm a little concerned about your soul because whether or not God might approve of your politics, I think that God doesn't approve of you stirring up hate in the auditorium.
Louder, really, I can't hear you from here.
I say that whether or not God approves of your politics, I don't think that God would approve of you stirring up hate this way. And so, other than that, that's the point on which I disagree with you.
Okay, good enough. Thank you for coming, and that's that. Thank you. Shalom.
Do we have time for another question? I'd like to ask a question that arises out of the advertisement that was run before this meeting. It says, the state of Israel is not a political creation, it is a religious one. And I'd like to understand further in just what sense it is a religious creation. Does it rest on some specific instantiation of the Jewish faith? For example, in the book of Deuteronomy, there's a covenant that's given through Moses. It has a set of stipulations. People have to observe them to live in the land. Would that be part of your concept of a religious establishment, or does it have anything to do with Moses and the covenant? Is it something different?
I'm an Orthodox rabbi, and my personal claim to Israel is based upon the fact that God gave us that land. That does not mean that the other arguments, one, the argument of history and historical argument that we lived there for thousands of years until driven out, is not accurate. It is too. Certainly it is. It doesn't mean that a third argument that we have no place to live in this entire world except that land in which we once lived. And our choice is either Israel or another Auschwitz. That doesn't mean that doesn't. In the Bible, it speaks of Ishmael having been a son of Abraham. And what it says in that same chapter in Genesis 17 is that God tells Abraham, and I have heard you, and I will make Ishmael also a great nation, and 12 princes shall come forth from him, but the covenant I will give unto Isaac. And that's what it says. And if you want to be consistent, you have to be consistent with that Bible totally or not. Thank you.